My name is Ian Moss, probably best known for the lead guitar player or the guitar player for Cold Chisel.
K-San is frequently cited as one of Australia's most iconic songs. Triple M listeners recently voted Cold Chisel as the greatest Australian artist of all time.
Here we are in 2025, still
That's crazy.
selling out to stadiums in Australia.
How do you incorporate storytelling into your songwriting, and how important is storytelling specifically?
Every last syllable of what you write about and sing has to mean something. Last thing you want to be doing is singing shit lyrics.
I know that K-San was initially banned on radio.
If you get that one time out of 10 where you come up with something different and radical and new, well, then that was all worth it.
Ian Moss of the Ian Moss Band and Cold Chisel, welcome to the podcast.
Adam, how are you?
Very well, my friend. Nice to have you. I've been very much looking forward to this one. My family and friends that are a little bit of an older demographic don't really understand what I do, but when I told them I was speaking to you, all their eyes lit up, and I think they finally realize I'm doing something interesting with my life. So thank you for being a part of that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So
hopefully it's interesting.
Oh, yeah, it will be interesting. Well, you're an interesting guy. You've seen a lot and experienced a lot and done a lot, so I'm very excited to dig into it. So my first question to you is, K-San is frequently cited as one of Australia's most iconic songs. Triple M listeners recently voted Cold Chisel as the greatest Australian artist of all time, and you guys formed over 50 years ago. You did a 50-year reunion tour that sold 225,000 tickets, which is up there in the most amount of tickets an Australian actors sold. And between your solo career and the band, you've sold likely 8 to 10 million albums, including streaming. That's a lot of impact. Now, I want to go back to the period between 1973, when the band was formed, and 1978, when K-San was released. If you were to reflect back on the creative energy during those years, what lessons and frameworks can you take on the process that led to such a string of iconic songs during that period?
Well, that's the first thing is just that incredible kind of discipline and diligence of Cold Chisel's main. We used to call him the mastermind, Don Walker, particularly with his drive towards. He was kind of driving everything, really. It was, when I think back, he had such a workload. I guess, we were younger, 3 years younger, and didn't really understand it. But first and foremost, I think, Don, part of the reason 50 years later we're selling so many tickets goes all the way back to Don's work ethic or I'm not sure the word I'm thinking of, the ideal that every last syllable of what you write about and sing has to mean something. I still think back. Some of these songs, early songs are kind of a bit rough and awkward, and there was. I think you figured it out as you went. There's no going off to a music college somewhere to learn how to write songs or get any guidance whatsoever. We'd soon getting these songs together. We thought, these are working, and then you start playing with the audiences, and you suddenly see this cohesion happening, and so the numbers next time you played a venue doubled, we might be on the road and doing our regular set, and then we say might be at sound check, and Don is playing through something we'd never heard before. We're going, wow, what's that? That's really cool. He said, it's a new song I'm working on. Well, it sounds like you've pretty much got it finished. And you go, no, it's let's do it. Finish. Let's get into it. Learn it. Maybe do it tonight. And you go, no. There's this word in the second line of the fourth verse I'm just not happy with. And you go, what? Isn't that being pedantic? He'd go down to the last syllable. Being overly pedantic, and it would push him. No, he wouldn't do it. And it might take him a week, or it might take him a month, or several months to finally get those right last word or words. And when he did, he went, right, I get it.
Mm.
Yeah, it just lock the whole thing away, and here we go again. We've got to get another brilliant Don Walker song.
So how did that tie into your solo career? Did you take many lessons out of that?
I tried to, yeah. Just it was, for me, it was always just really important to believe in what you're singing about. And to me, it's always important to have great imagery and stories that made sense. Indeed, I had Don Walker on board for quite a few of my songs on my first solo album, which was Matchbook. So, yeah, I thought, I was thinking if you're going to have, you probably could have a hit song with lesser quality lyrics, but if there's a story there you can't dig your teeth into and believe in, and then suddenly you have this hit and you just hate the words and you've got to sing it. If you're fortunate enough to have a bit of a hit and do lots of gigs, you've got to sing that song over and over and over. The last thing you want to be doing is singing shit lyrics.
100%. And I feel like you see that so often with artists. They do something that they don't love, and then it just happens to be the one that pops just out of, probably the universe turning around and saying, fuck you for not aligning with what you really want. And then you're stuck for 10 years doing it 100%. So how do you mentioned storytelling is important. I'm in media and I'm constantly thinking about writing and communicating. How do you incorporate storytelling into your songwriting, and how important is storytelling specifically?
Just trying to think. Tucker's Daughter, for example, is complete fiction. Of course, it is a fun song, but people have possibly been in that situation.
Do you write for a persona? Like, do you think when you're writing a song, do you think of an ideal person who could potentially be in this life, or do you kind of just let it flow as it comes out?
Bit of both. For example, my last album is called Rivers Run Dry, or Rivers Runs. No. Rivers Run Dry. Rivers Run Dry, not River Runs Dry, which is actually short for Your River Has Run Dry, which I just started from scratch. That was written for a childhood mate of mine in my hometown of Alice Springs. I started writing the song in March 2020. In February 2020, this friend of mine had a severe stroke. One of these, couldn't get much worse. It was sort of midnight, saying goodnight to his wife. He said, because he suffers eczema, he said, look, I'll drive you nuts with my scratching all night. I know I will. I'll sleep on the couch. See you in the morning. She went to bed. He went to the bathroom. It was around midnight. Had the stroke, and of course incapacitated on the floor for 8 hours till he was discovered. Yeah. So at the time of actually writing the song, it said we don't think he's going to make it at all. So I started writing that song with my heart, thinking, this is it. It's going to be goodbye. Happy to report that he did pull through, somewhat, barely incapacitated.
Yeah,
classic,
I understand.
Wheelchair, active on one side, and okay. When as far as you can still, he can't really hold a conversation, but he's clear. I think he's pretty clear in his thinking, but he can't really. So that's one, I guess, kind of a positive.
Yeah. My dad had a stroke a few years ago, so I understand that whole thing. So yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. It's crazy.
It really is. Yeah. So I mean, there's one example of writing songs for a specific purpose.
Yeah. So when that kind of, I guess inspiration is probably not the ideal word for this specific situation, but when that fire comes through, do you just go all out at it for as long as you can until that energy runs out, or do you kind of just start a little bit and then come back to it, work on it a little bit more? How do you approach the creative fuel?
Yeah, no, I tend to be get an idea. Little windows of inspiration open up. The ones they just happen. They just pop into your head. The ones that if you sit there and try and say, right, I'm going to write a song, nothing comes along. So, but you'll get a melody for whatever reason. Generally, be a bit of melody, and obviously that'll be chords come with it, maybe a smattering of a few words. But there's something about it which has got a certain spontaneity about it. It's one of those opportunities. One of those little windows opening, you grab it before the window shuts. So I'll just record it. Grab my phone and use a recorder and sing or play a bit of melody into it, and it's they're stockpiling. So it's sometime later here in the year 25, it's time to get stuck into going back to all those ideas and extrapolating, and hopefully turn some of them into half decent songs.
Great. On the note of the inspiration and just kind of the download of wherever it comes from, are you a spiritual or like religious man? Like, where do you think this comes from?
No, not spiritual, not religious. I don't know. Generally, it's all I can say is you're kind of pretty much in a happy place at the time.
Yeah.
Certainly don't write when I don't think you can really write when you're depressed or angry.
Yeah.
I don't know, or maybe you can with the first one.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. You'd have a lot more expertise than me in this world, so I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, where they come from, don't know. They just pop in the head, and as long as they keep doing that occasionally, then I'll be happy. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned that music, kind of your music has been inspired by, say, your friend as an example. I'm a huge fan of music, and I feel like it taps into the deep human emotions. So, what can other artists learn about channeling those personal experiences into artistic outlets? Well,
could you just state the question again, please?
Yeah, go for it, for sure. Yeah. So basically, my question was that music taps into a lot of deep human emotion. People feel things, people tie them into stories, people extrapolate ideas from them. You've mentioned
their own meanings.
Their own meanings. That's right. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned your life experience with one example with your friend led into writing songs. So what lessons could you give to other up and coming artists about kind of channeling those personal experiences into the creative outlet without maybe you mentioned that maybe you can't write when you're sad or angry, but these forms of emotions and energy do play out in a lot of music. So from your experience, how could someone tap into that effectively?
Yeah, I don't know. I come up, nothing particularly enlightening in that case of just trying to, because it's always the battle is to get the 1% in. Yeah. Most songs, it's all about that's the classic 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. And your battle is you might have had a spontaneous original thread of some kind, whether it be musical or lyrically. Trying to induce that spontaneity is the hard part. Mm-hmm. You just got to be patient with it. I remember being really stuck with, for example, Bow River, and then just bang, it popped into my head that whole last desperate alternative chorus on the end. I don't need the score. I'm walking out the door, going to tell the man I don't want no more. Pick up a fast car, burn my name in the road. All that popped into my head. For what it's worth, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
those lines. But when they popped into my head, it was just a moment of jumping, punching the air.
Yeah, I understand.
and then 1 week, 2 week, maybe even more. Piss on my money up against it there more. Yeah. And, but yeah, it's you can only just keep it in mind, just keep focused on your story, try and disappear into your own story, try and be that person in the story, feel what that person in the story is doing, become them, and try and kind of become them and let them come up with the words.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. So to recap, basically, when inspiration strikes, you kind of just get that first bit out, you lock that down into paper, into words, into a voice note, and then you kind of just have to hustle on it and just work on it and work on it and work on it. And eventually your brain will begin to start processing the ideas and you'll come and go from it. And then probably when you're in the shower, the pieces will come together. It's like your brain's working on it on its own, and then you'll know, and then you just got to hustle that once you've got that extra inspiration to the next stage.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing. More often than not, you'll probably won't be holding a guitar or sitting at a piano. You'll be somewhere like, I don't know, if you're like you're sitting on a train or a plane. I mean, I find those kind of environments are the hypnotic drone in the background or something. It can just lull you into that half. You might. Somebody had so many great ideas when you're almost drifting off into a sleep. Something will pop into your head, and you've got to be. I've had plenty of moments like that where I've had the discipline to. Sometimes you might be drifting off to sleep and get this idea, and you go, "Oh, I haven't got a pen or a paper. Where's my phone?" I'll remember that in the morning, and
you never do.
Of course, you never do.
Yeah, I understand that feeling. Yeah,
so,
okay.
As soon as it's there, grab hold of it and write it down.
Yeah. You mentioned as well that those times when you're not actually working on music and or you're going to sleep is when you get those extra pieces that kind of those extra downloads from wherever that come through and are the inspiration for new songs. So what impact of travel and nature, and I know you drive a lot to your shows, you like to kind of like have the open road. What impact of those experiences, what impact do those experiences have on the creative process? And do you actively channel them into your work, or are they just kind of part of your life and now you just live in a way that you can be creative?
Well, you're fortunate enough to be in a position where this it's my full-time job. That's. I think I can kind of agree or concur with what you're saying about this. I know Don Walker's a big fan of driving everywhere. And I think there's a reason for it. They can afford to fly or whatever, but I think that solitude and that thing of the road, that beautiful monotonous hum of your engine, and the feeling that you're going somewhere. You're going somewhere to a better place. Is very powerful, and I can feel that too. Take the members of Cold Chisel, for example. I'd say that's. And knowing Jim's got all the patience of a small soap dish. We're going there, right? What's the quickest way I can get there? Right, that's it. Doesn't want to mess around. So, that was Jim of old. Maybe he's changed because he does ride a lot more, and maybe he does enjoy a ride to try and get some ideas going. But yeah, that driving, focus, solitude, lost in your own thoughts can really induce some great ideas.
Yeah, great. What's I want to jump back to the early years again. With the formative years you had in Alice Springs and early Adelaide, how did they shape your musical vision and your way of performing?
it was certainly isolated back then when I started.
So you jumped into music as an outlet because you were for boredom?
I was definitely loved music, keen on music from a very young age. Radio going constantly, trying to hear the latest hits. Back then, you were a bit limited with what you could do. So, but it was a good old days of AM radio, and amazing how you didn't need that much of an aerial to pick up stations. Particularly car radio seemed to be good. Well, you didn't have certainly not your radiogram inside your house wouldn't do it, but cars you could pick up radio from Adelaide, for example. That's Melbourne to Sydney would have been too far, but you could pick up all the top 40 stuff and in waves. It was sort of, and it certainly wasn't top quality audio by a long shot. But you got the gist of the songs, and there's something cool about that sort of tweaking, that just tuning in the radio and just getting the signal, and sometimes it would come really clear and then it's just starting to fade out in a sea of static just at your favourite bit. That's what we relied on mainly. There's certainly no just open up your laptop, get YouTube up and running.
Completely different world now.
Well, yeah, exactly. Amazing.
So who inspired you during that time?
Well, initially, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I've been asked before, what was the first concert you ever went to? And I think it was Slim Dusty.
Where was he?
I think it was in Alice Springs.
Okay.
And it was the classic, good old like circus tent arrangement, the plank seating, all makeshift sort of. But I still remember. I just can't remember what age. Maybe I could Google what year was it, or what years when he first came in. But I remember, perhaps country music wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but the excitement of seeing it, particularly in Alice, because you rarely saw anything. Excitement of seeing live musicians on stage, and incredible. This is fantastic. I want to do this. I want to do this one day. But before that, then it was when I was 5 or 6. That's what was on the radio. I seemed to right into Johnny Horton and the Battle of New Orleans, and it was mainly lots of radio. Hank Williams and Little Boy Lost and Wolverton Mountain and all that kind of stuff. But then ABC radio also played lots of soul, R&B, original R&B. So you heard Sam Cooke and Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles. That would seem to be really popular.
So do you think the combination of the country and then the R&B soul kind of gave you your rock and roll base, because rock and roll foundation?
Yeah, I guess so, because you also had Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis. That was your rock and roll back then. Then the Beatles suddenly were there, and Elvis Presley, of course. I really liked Elvis. But then suddenly I Want to Hold Your Hand by the Beatles came. I remember that incredible excitement which just overtook the world. Yeah. And that was palpable on the streets of Alice Springs in 1961.
Yeah, wow.
And everyone's just, man. Everyone's racing down to the one record store, Murray Neck's Retrovision or Murray Neck's Electricals, to order their copy, and they only have two, so you'd put your order in, and 6 weeks later you're lucky you probably received your single, your 45, and race home, put the big radiogram in your parents' room.
So you would have been around 6 during that time period? 6
or 7, yeah.
Yeah.
So and then I'd started learning classical piano. And only lasted. I got a grade 2 in classical, but just unfortunately, I kind of regret it now. I wasn't interested enough in it, but I did learn some good musical theory, basics or rudiments of music, as they call it. Which so when I picked up the guitar at 11, I was
Have the basics down pat.
Scale, circle of fifths, and all that kind of stuff. And then, bang! Next minute, there's Jimi Hendrix. And soon after that, Led Zeppelin, and it's like, wow, it's just such a radical changes. It's good to be there when these first things. Yeah, you heard them for the first time. It's like, oh my God, what is this? How do they do that? And be part of that excitement.
Yeah. With the music side of things, learning as you're kind of growing up, would you? Well, maybe for your kids or your grandkids, or would you recommend that they pick a specific instrument and focus deeply on it, or go very wide on a lot of different things?
No rules there. Just do what you want to do, but have a go at all sorts of styles. That's maybe initially. Don't be afraid to. Don't be afraid. I always listen to everything and don't be critical of if that's country. I'm not going to listen to that shit or jazz. Take it all in. And then probably, at some stage you'll hone in on something you like, and that's really important too. So I love blues. I'm going to just stick with blues, or I love jazz and whatever. But no rules. No reason why you can't. Hone in on as many instruments as you like, but generally, all probably most of us. I admire people who can do that. Most of us probably get attracted to something and stick with the one thing.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. It's good to know. It's like I said, there's no rules, and I think you gain inspiration from so many different parts. So you just got to be curious, right?
Yeah, curious and open-minded.
Yeah,
open-minded. Yeah, take in everything, give everything a chance.
Yeah. So you mentioned, listening to the radio when you were younger. When I know that Khe-Sanh was initially banned on radio. So what are your thoughts around how important it is for, artists to push boundaries of things that are, culturally acceptable? And has it gone too far in 2025, or do you still think that we're in the same space?
I definitely haven't. Things haven't gone too far. Yeah, can never go far enough.
Really?
I think, Why not? What do you got to lose? Be wild. Try stuff that goes against all orthodoxy. You never know. Something might work. Maybe 9 times out of 10 it won't. But if you get that one time out of 10 where you've come up with something different and radical and new, well, then that was all worth it.
Yeah. Did you feel like when you say release that song, and then you heard it got banned, what was going on in your head at the time? How did you guys respond to that?
It was pretty crazy, pretty sort of authority trying to give use naughty rock and roll boys trying to give a smack on the hand kind of stuff. Well, probably I wish I had more than than we did. It was just one of those things. It was because we're an Australian act, and it wasn't one rule fits all. Unfortunately, I can't remember other songs that were on the radio at the same time from international acts that had at least equally. I wish I could think of an example. Equally explicit, if you want to call it. I'm not sure what the main thing Khe-Sanh was banned for. Whether it was things like your legs are off and open. Or
I think so. Yeah, something along those lines.
Or whether it was the mention
of drug references and stuff. Yeah,
or drug reference. Yeah. There's but there were other songs on the radio, equally, if not so more so explicit. So that sort of, it just drove you to be, you want to go, fuck you, and get even more anti-authoritarian.
Yeah, it seems like music's an outlet to push the boundaries for sure.
Yeah, and should be, because it can do it in a healthy way. I think in a peaceful, it can be forceful, but at the same time, it can be all have a peaceful, positive, best intentions message behind it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of like comedians being able to speak about relevant life and cultural things without getting cancelled because they're comedians and it's all a joke. And if it's somewhat funny, it's probably somewhat true. So it kind of is a similar world with the music and the comedy.
Yeah. Good comparison, I think. Yeah. As with so many great comedians.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to Jonathan Winters, and who was obviously a massive influence on Robin Williams, who didn't pull any punches.
Yeah.
Neither did Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy. Name just a couple.
Yeah, definitely. I've wanted to chat to you about the pub culture, especially in Australia now. The pub culture, it almost doesn't exist. And I know the culture in the 70s and 80s was crucial for Aussie rock and careers like yourselves. If you were to begin Cold Chisel again, as a fresh 18, trying to build a career that's anchored around, say, the cultural impact and community, because that's effectively what the pubs did. They were a place of culture. They were a place of connection. Using the lessons you've learned now, but knowing the world is a little bit different, what would you do the same and what would you approach differently?
Ooh. Saying if there was.
Well, I mean, so basically the goal of the question is you've had, 60 plus years of experience in the industry. You came up in a way that built a very deep culture for an audience, the audiences in Australia, to the point where you're still selling, 200,000 tickets on a tour. That, I think, is anchored around a deep cultural impact and a deep love and care of community. But the world is a very different place now, and there's not as many places for people to have that community. So from what you understand about how the industry was shaped and how the band was successful, what would you do the same and what would you do differently?
Just quickly though, I love doing this podcast. If it's positively impacted you in some way and you would like to support us, please subscribe. By subscribing, it allows us to build a much bigger base of listeners, which results in better guests, better production, and a better show overall. Alternatively, please take a look at the affiliate links of the products that I use and love in the comments below and consider purchasing using those links. They'll give you a discount and they'll also provide the podcast a small kickback. These are two very easy ways for you to support us as we continue to grow the podcast that we absolutely love doing. Thank you for your support, and now back to the episode.
Yeah, well, we're so fortunate in as you mentioned, with the pub culture. We've been so fortunate with timing all the way along. It's just as we learned to get songs together and learned how to be a good, energetic live band. That's when the whole pub thing just started to explode. Because before that, I don't know where people played. Sort of there was, converted factories turned into gigs, whatever. But there wasn't that consistency of 6 nights a week where the whole pub hotel industry realised there's some good money to be made, because it would have been all cash back then, cash over the bar. Bands like Midnight Oil, Cold Chisel, The Angels, and Radiators, just to pick 4 big bands, say in about 1977, 78. We could all be in the same distant suburb of Sydney in a different pub, and each band would pack them out. There'd be queues 4 wide going around the block.
Wow.
We're doing that. It was a golden era there for 3 or 4 years. You do that 6 nights a week.
Yeah, wow.
So you certainly got your chops up.
Yeah,
at the very least.
I've heard a story about something similar with the Beatles, where they played in some random venue for years, right? Every night of the week. And they just got extremely good as a band and extremely good at their craft. So it sounds like something very, very similar with you guys. So I wonder if there's something really important in that, of just like practice, get in front of people, get in front of shows, do everything you can to actually be in front of faces, because that's where you really build the skill. Yeah,
there's definitely something about sitting in your bedroom practicing for a year, and then and the massive difference of being fortunate enough to be able to get out and play live every night for a year. But it's one of those things. If it's not there, you got to find a way, and people do. Maybe they practice harder. I mean, there's some jump on YouTube and just I'm always looking at different guitar players and musicians, and there's some brilliant players out there. Incredible. It's always been about making the best of what you get. Some things never change. Trying to get played on radio was a massive goal in the old days. Trying to get your single. You'd hear stories about you trying to put Cold Chisel early days, trying to get single onto radio. So representative from your record company or management go to the top radio station and say, here's our new single, and they go, oh yes, put it on that pile with the other 30 people new singles this week, and there's only so many minutes in a day, and so we can only probably pick 4 of those, and the rest will go on to next week's pile with the next 30 that's coming in. And so real tough. Now it's kind of reverse a lot easier. At least you can get your music out there because of the internet. But then so can 6 billion other people. So it's that thing of how do you get yours to catch people's attention? Yeah, the challenges are always there.
Yeah, the culture is the important part. I've heard that's what makes the music great, is how it makes you feel and how you share it with other people around you, and you can't really get that just on YouTube.
It'd be so great if things came back. I guess I don't think they ever will come back to that. Just in my ideal world, there would be just endless live venues everywhere, because people do love their live music. We'll just wait and see.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like there's a pendulum swinging away from online again. That people are wanting, like, they're craving connection.
Yeah,
they really are.
Especially with the collapse of some of these festivals. In Australia, big Byron Bay Blues Festival and big Splendor in the Grass. Gone. Yeah.
Falls.
Oh God, yeah. I know people are still going to want their music, so they're going to want their live music. So something will come around.
Yeah, I think it's from what I've understood about it is discovery has changed. People discover through Spotify, and that's very algorithmically based. So you're getting what it thinks you want. So you just go into this echo chamber of subgenres and you don't really listen to anything else. So what's doing really well are these like very, very niche specific subgenre events, but what's struggling are these massive multi-genre, festivals where you have, they were the best things. I loved them. My first festival was Big Day Out. There's another one that went down because you go there and you would listen to, say, Kanye West, and then you go in this other room and you find this new electronic artist you've never heard before, and then there's this
there's Metallica.
Metallica. I saw Red Hot Chili Peppers for the first time. It's like all in the same day. It's the most fun ever. But people aren't as curious as much anymore, it seems. They find their little niche and they stick to it. So I don't know. It's very interesting. And people don't want to drink as much anymore, I'm noticing. There's like less drinking culture.
I mean,
in my demographic anyway, it seems there's a big drop, but I think it's still It's more prevalent in the older demographics. So
yeah. I mean, that's probably a good thing, really. The drinking, there's been a lot of,
Mate, they're just doing vapes now, so they're doing other shit. It's not like it's no better. It's just they're going to some other vice.
Yeah. We do like them, don't we? Like our vices.
Yeah, we do. It's another human experience, just destruction of things that make us feel good in the moment, but are bad for us in the long run. It's just a human experience.
Yeah, as long as you're having fun getting there. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm conscious of time, and I wanted to talk to you about the shift when you were about 27, 28, Cold Chisel disbanded. I think there's a couple of really, really important lessons around the end of one era and how you feel at that time, and then what you do to find success and growth in the next era. So I'd love to get an understanding of what you were feeling at the moment when the band shut down, and all the uncertainty was there. And reflecting back, what advice would you have told yourself during that time that maybe somebody listening going through a similar thing could take on board?
Well, just to set the scene a little bit, to what you're talking about, Cold Chisel. We started in 1973, and pretty much we were a cover band when we started. Don Walker always had this drive, and we've got to get out of cover mode as fast as we can. Get trapped in that, and then you'll always be a cover band, and people will think of you like that. So he started writing songs really, really early. They're pretty rough kind of songs. In fact, it's funny. The band got going. I don't know if this is all part of it, I suppose. 1973, then Don got the call to go back to university. So there was Armidale, and we were at Adelaide. We all met in Adelaide. Went back to Armidale, New England University in Armidale, and suggested we come up there, and he thought could be the perfect environment to develop the band to this incredible level, so that when you go back into the city, you're not battling from down here and trying to work your way up. People, you're going to have such a wow factor. You're going to come straight in at the top, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Maybe optimistic, but maybe slightly naive, because then you still have to live life and grow up and work out how things are done. Pretty soon, we kind of got a little tired of Adelaide and said, no, look, Armidale would, from freezing our nads off and living out in this country, a weatherboard place, right out in the middle of the country. Went back to Adelaide and continued pretty much as a cover band. Don Walker came back in 6 months later and said, no, we've got to stop it right away, and so we built up quite a following. So he came in with a whole bunch of new songs. We learnt all these songs, and there were lots of good ideas in there, but they're all a little bit long way to go, really. And we did this major gig and did none of our regular covers, and it just about destroyed the band. The crowd just about walked out, and sort of, why have you let this guy come back in a record? A great band, and we almost split up. And thankfully, we did actually. A couple of guys threatened to leave, and a couple of us said, no, okay, it was just a mistake. We've got a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential here. Stick with it. We don't want to be a cover band. So we soldiered on. But my point was, it was kind of 6 years, really. Good 5 or 6 years before we really started to get a handle on how to write songs and how to be a good live band. So that took us to the end of 83. Or more like beginning of 82, we're starting to, because you've got to burn so brightly all the time, so long, and it's really hard to keep up. So by mid '82, we're looking at splitting up, and it's pretty. The atmosphere is pretty horrible. Friends of mine were pretty bad, and there's this whole thing of you're talking about how we could transition. We for some reason we took the view that it was all over. A lot of us. I don't know why, but it was just maybe it's just a fear of not having. I remember talking to Phil Small, the bass player, and said, "What are you going to do? What are we going to do? Have you got a trade? Have you got a degree in anything?" Said, no. So we're like, "Oh, Jesus!" I think it was all within 6 months that the name Cold Chisel would have been long gone. But there was optimism there from Don Walker. Said, "No, I'm going to keep writing. We're going to do this again. We're going to do this again." And he started coming out with songs and started just knuckling down and getting into it, starting to amass songs. And by about it took a few years, 3 or 4 years for me to get. I was just really fussy about the song quality to get songs ready for the Matchbook album. I don't know what I'm trying to say here is there's no need to always keep the candle burning, keep optimistic, and move on to the next thing. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. That was a good story. I appreciate it. It sounds like Don just was this anchor that just kept you guys pushing forward.
Yeah, true. Yeah, he was. Several times the guys would throw shit and say, "I'm leaving. I'm going off to something better." And they're going, pull it back in. And here we are in 2025. Still,
that's crazy.
Selling out to stadiums in Australia.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? So it makes you wonder. You never really know what's going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, but the thing is to remain optimistic and have good humility and empathy for your band members and indeed in general.
Yeah.
And kind of stay calm and focused and just keep working, keep forging straight ahead.
Definitely. So wrapping up, I appreciate you coming on, Ian. I just wanted to ask you, if we were to look back at the conversation, what's a lesson that you'd hope that everyone takes away from the conversation and potentially your experiences in music and being in such an iconic band?
Just simply just keep yourself open, keep trying new things. Just make sure you practice every day. If you don't feel like, just push yourself through an hour of scales or something. Just remain really open-minded. Listen to anything new and look for the positives and stuff you like, and just keep trying to come up with new stuff. Don't be afraid to experiment in genres outside your own style. Keep reading, keep following what's going on in the world, and keep trying to write good stories which people are going to find interesting, or that may even influence friends, society in a positive way.
Yeah. Great. And is there anything you're excited about at the moment that you want to let listeners in on? I know you have a tour coming up in May 2025, correct?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I'm doing some of the bigger theatres around the capital cities in May, and I've got myself normally I might go out and do solo acoustic, but now I'm doing a thing somewhere in the middle. I've got nice acoustic piano, great jazz player, guy called Harry Sutherland, Zoe Houtman on upright bass, and Kerry Jacobson on drums, just leaning into I'm not a jazz player, but I've got time to learn a few chords to make it sound like I do. I know something about it. It'll be not a full rock thing, not a full acoustic thing, something somewhere in the middle, with lots of vocals projecting right out the front.
Great. And where can people find you if they're interested?
Oh, just go to my website, I guess.
Just Google me.
Not much of a salesman, am I? Yeah, Google me. Just Google me. I'm the world's
You'll find
worst
enough.
sales. Yeah, it'll be there somewhere. Ian Moss, IAMOSS, pretty easy to remember.
Great. And my last question is, what do you think the meaning of life is, to wrap all this up? just to throw you a little curveball at the end.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not religious. It's the meaning of life is to I don't know, just keep discovering, and because there's still so much more to be discovered and learn. It is hard sometimes to think there's not a greater thing that's designed all this. But I'll remain an atheist, or at the very least, what's the next one up from?
Agnostic.
Agnostic, yeah, at the most, but probably completely atheist.
Yeah, fair enough. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your energy. I appreciate you coming on. You're an inspiration. It's been great to chat to you for the last hour. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Adam.
Awesome. And if anyone's made it this far, please go to YouTube, search That One Time with Adam Metwally, click subscribe, like the video, and leave us a comment. Till next time.
Cheers, mate.